dive directly into the next session about measuring of success and obstacles of lab work and testing. Please welcome the panelists.
Operators taking a long time for your panel as long as you support Open Run. So even if you want 5 more minutes, please do so. We'll cut short our time. Okay, so hi, I'm Monika Tarwala. I am from Capgemini and I'm working with i14y lab for 2 years now. And now I will let our panelists introduce themselves. So, Sanna.
Okay. Hello, everybody. So my name is Sanna Brandt, working for Rohde and Schwarz. So been in test and measurement industry for almost 20 years, and before that for Nokia mobile phone side for 10 years. So I think they're also in device side, so this has been the hot topic for a long time. But yeah, maybe Ajesh.
Hello all. So my name is Ajesh Pk, and I'm working in i14y lab as part of Deutsche Telekom in this i14y lab. So my job role involves testing, bringing up of end-to-end test components based on ORAN, and we support the vendors and the lab for bringing up the ORAN components testing, certification, badging, and all technical bring up of 5G components in this lab. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Chris Murphy from Viavi Solutions. I've been with Viavi for about over 10 years now. Before that, I was with Moderator and always been driven by data and optimization.
Thank you all. Thank you for being in the panel. So we have heard from our previous panelists, from vendor and operators, the challenges they are facing in certification. So as a lab and test tool vendors, will deep dive what challenges lab is facing during the certification process and what test tool vendors are facing during the certification process. So as I would like to hand over to you, Ajesh, what are the challenges you faced during the certification, as we have already rolled out 2 certifications from i14y lab? What were the challenges and what you would do in future to improve it?
Okay. So as you all are aware that we were the first lab in Europe to hand out the certification and badging for the ORAN components. So so this activity began on this starting of this year. So coming to your question, the challenges. Yes, we do have a lot of challenges in this segment where you know, this ORAN specifications and is keeping on evolving with the technology, where the specifications and the working groups are coming up with new specifications, where so from our lab side we have to keep up to date with these specifications, especially in the technical skills as well as from the infrastructure point of view. So you know, like so this time we tested this radios and CUDU vendors, and not so we expect more radio vendors to be coming for this certification. So we also expect all the radios might not be the same thing, right? So we have to manage our infrastructure and all those test equipment. So to be keeping it updated with the specification, and also we are trying to bring more automation into this testing activities, so that in the future where many of these vendors come to our lab to get their equipments or equipments getting certified or ready for this as certification, and we will make sure our lab is ready to do all this functionality testing and even comes to performance. And also from the lab perspective, like we'll make sure that the automation runs perfectly and it's ready to do more testings, and also to scale the capability of the lab both vertically and horizontally. So that's one of the challenges we are facing now. Yeah.
Okay, I see. So how about you, Sanna? As a test tool vendor, you are into multiple labs and you are supporting many ORU conformances tests. So what are your thoughts, like what challenges are you facing, and are these challenges or issues similar in other labs, or are they something different?
Okay, so maybe reason why I was mentioning, so I was doing for this Nokia mobile phone testing in the past, is that really in the device side, so it's really clearly defined. So there is forums GCF and PTCRB which is very much driven by the operators, which are defining this is what you need to test. And this is unfortunately missing from the ORAN side. So when we started the certification work in i14y lab, so first we need to define, okay, what needs to be tested. So it's not clear, so you don't have the list of test cases what you need to run. And I think Nitin was also referring to this one in this first session. So we need to define, and then we need to check so what the radio unit is really supporting, and that's also not so clear, and so you need to identify, so of course there's mandatory test cases you need to run, but then for conditional mandatory what you need to run, it's not clear. And so I think in general, and when you start to do the testing, so what you also mentioned, so even now we have been also testing together with we are having this with Viavi the solution, so with several different ORUs, every single time it takes minimum 1 to 2 weeks to set up the system. And the reason really is that the standardization itself, it's not really black and white. So in the past there was not so much interest for the ORAN Alliance specification works. And then the specification was just frozen and there are still the gaps. So then we need to identify really how to even to make the connection for the system. So I think that how we are trying to address, so if of course we are participating the plug quests and so on, we try to get more and more experience of different ORUs and then run more and more different kind of more complex test cases in order to make this kind of process more smoothly next time.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I agree with you. Since the specifications are very new, it's not that well defined yet, too much left for interpretations. So some vendors are interpreting it in a different way, others in the other way, and test tools in the other way. So I would like to get your opinion, Chris. Could we use like other alliance, like GSMA and 3GPP, and take their guidance, how they are testing or how they have started testing and how it's well synchronized now? What are your thoughts?
Good question, and Sanna made some excellent points there about what it's like to be a vendor, and I'm reminded of Heiku's assertion that the vendors, the equipment vendors, have an easier job than the operators, and I wonder where this leaves the test and measurement vendors. Perhaps we have the easiest of all because we're not actually delivering the critical path of communication. But I think it's in this environment here where we have a very difficult job, and I would ask the operators the question. Try not to put in RFPs which need to be done urgently when we're supposed to be on holiday. Then I'll let you have the easiest job. But other approaches at building, we're trying to build something as we're flying it. I mean the networks aren't quite running the ORAN yet generally, but we're trying to get to that point, and we're learning as we go along all the time. And we have to, we don't just wait until we get to the plug fest. We try and work with vendors early. That's got to be something. But I was interested to hear the point that Jan Peter from Ericsson said earlier about back in the GSM days when it was a bit of a wild west. The interfaces weren't fully defined, and it sounds very much like it is now. And you had to get together, and then you get them talking together, and you think, wow, it's done. But no, you're not, because it's got to work at load. No, and then you've done that. It's got to be functional. It's got to be able to deliver a system for communication. So there's so many levels to this, so many layers of this, and we need to be cognizant of that. And as to, we can look to GSMA and 3GPP, and there's very mature things about conformance testing of equipment for UEs, for example. We can see that as an aspiration, although that's a very kind of specific area. Organisations like TIP with the badging, this is something which is something that we can look to build upon and proliferate to drive the industry towards something which we can trust and know is going to deliver.
Thank you. But one thing you said that it's the easiest job being the test tool vendor. I see it's the difficult job. I didn't say that. I would say in certification, most of the times we are relying on you and blaming test tool vendors. So other question, circling back to you, Ajesh. We know during certifications, how do you ensure that the lab environment is like in pristine condition so it doesn't introduce any other variables in the testing.
Okay. To add to this, so there are some best practices methods which is followed in the lab. So basically, that includes the documentations of these test cases and all those test logs and test running the, and also this collecting the reports from these test cases. And the best practices include the constant and monitoring of this lab infrastructure, because all you know, like there are multiple lab entities like switches, routers, RF equipments, and all these equipments have to be monitored, and also this infrastructure related equipments need to be upgraded time to time, because all that we somehow during this Plug Fest or even during this certification, we get to know more about this vendors equipment, because we have to look on those vendors coming with this ORAN components, really what features they really support and what are the conditions or the test conditions that are applicable to this vendors equipment. So along with that, so we have to keep our equipments, that means the emulators and all those test transport devices to be updated with this vendors equipment, so that this entire certification and badging process go very well easily with the requirements. So one of the thing is mainly on the logging and all those activities, and next is keeping all those monitoring all those infrastructure related to and keeping them updated with the versions with that, because we often get to know that some features are added in the ORAN from this WG4 or any other group. So this has some test cases become mandatory. So we have to make sure that these tests can be done in our lab, and with the support of this equipment vendors, we get those updates installed in this our equipments. And also one more aspect is keeping this all things with the security related for under compliance. And for example, all these records have to be kept in a way like it's accessible only to the vendors who are part of this activities, and keeping and one more thing is to keep our automation as well. So it's the main key component in all the certification and related activities. So we have to keep them updated with respect to the test cases, because as per the ORAN specifications, so we basically for this certification and badging, so we were testing all test activities from the TAFG group. So most of these test cases are coming from the TAFG, so we have to adapt our equipments as well as be prepared for doing all these test cases. For example, for this certification at least, so we were the first in Europe at least to do all the 3GPP security related test cases. So these things were new to us when we are there, because we are usually in the way of integrations and testing the normal TFG test cases, but 3GPP, which was security testing which was new to us, and we somehow want at the point of the certification we found out like yes, some licenses or some features are missing in this equipments, and we have to take note of that and also get these licenses as well as software from the particular vendors who was responsible for this and do all this testing. So this time we are able to execute all those applicable TGPP test cases, and we were the first one to execute more test cases for this badging activity in the overall, when you consider all of the labs now.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like we automate, so at least the manual errors are out of the picture. But that gives me another question for you, Sanna, or for you, Chris, as a test tool vendors, how you guys keep up with the new specifications and then already have the test tool new updated softwares for this certification to be done? Over to you. Sorry for that. Maybe Sanna first.
Okay, so I think, so now, for example, fall Plug Fest are coming, and every time, so there is some people within our company asking, okay, why we go again? So I think this is the key, what we see in our organization, key to really to participate, because there it's not just testing every single time the same ORU. We are always trying to find a new ORU and really try to understand how they have implemented the specification and where the gaps are in the standardization itself. And ideally, so after the Plug Fest, so then you would make the change request and make this specification more mature. And this is maybe missing from the ORAN Alliance as well. So there is not so many contributors at the moment in the specification So there should be more active, but maybe now when there's this, what we have been referring several times today, so this big AT&T, so there's booming this ORAN, and hopefully there start to be more interest in this ORAN standardization as well, so that these gaps can be closed step by step, and this, so also when we are going for the plug west, so ideally we just could go there and plug in, so we don't need to do the pre-testing, for example, in advance to gain understanding what is the current status of the market.
Oh, thank you. Now we can justify why plug fests are important. Over to you, Chris.
Yeah, so as a as a test and measurement vendor, we work not just with Open RAN, but with the traditional networks and the traditional vendors delivering the vertically integrated solutions, and that is a very challenging environment to work in, and it's quite different in a way that the standards are very mature and they're growing as we add new features, but the vendors push us to produce releases so quickly after the specifications have been agreed, standards have been agreed, and we have to work very closely with them. So we've got that discipline there, and we're trying to bring that discipline over to the Open RAN. But the challenge we have is that it's because they're moving so fast, because you're starting from a less mature base. Versions get kind of deprecated, or maybe not deprecated, but there's lots of versions, for example, of the E2 service model. So how many of those do you support, and how far back do you go, and that makes it difficult. But there's this discipline of different levels of regression tests to make sure that you're doing daily tests to get the regular stuff, and then weekly tests to get some more in-depth regression and spotting those issues, as I say, working closely with the vendors, so you're not just discovering these issues when you get into a plug fest, but as soon as you can, so you can flush them out and make sure that you're talking to your customers to understand the implications of changes you want to make if there are incompatibilities going to be introduced as a result of that. So there's no single answer here, but it's an environment you need to live in and find a way to make it work.
Yeah, thank you. So as we have still some more time left, maybe one question for all of you. So will data sharing help between the lab and the operators? How will this improve the efficiency of overall ecosystem? What are your thoughts? I will start with you, Sanna.
Okay, so I think, for example, after this certification, what we done here in i14y lab, so there was, after that we had the feedback session, so I think that was very useful, so also for our side, so we get the input, so where we need to improve our solution, so in general, so sharing the information, what was good, what was bad, so it's very important us to also develop our solution, so it's more suitable for the whole market, and then, of course, ideally, if you could share the results between the OTIC labs, so that would be even more helpful, so, and I think we at the Plugfest, you are partially doing that, but maybe even more data sharing, so of the outcome of the certification work.
Yeah, exactly. Then they can just learn from each other's mistakes. Yes. Exactly. How about you, Ajesh?
Yeah, same. Adding to what. So yes, data sharing really helps, which means it's not that data sharing just with the vendors, but also between the labs. So because many of the OTICs in Taiwan or Asian OTICs or American, so they are doing the same exact work we are also doing, like, so they, of course, they would have faced the same problems, issues, or integration challenges or interoperability challenges what we have faced. So documenting all these challenges, as well as all these collecting all this logs, so all this sharing of knowledge which we gain from this end-to-end testing or this conformance testing, and sharing this knowledge with the other labs, and also to get to, so that all the labs can really work together to make this testing process little more easier. So in a way, like if some lab faces this issue, then they can actually contact the other labs. Hey, have you seen this issue, or is it okay? Or even in certain pass or fail criteria, we will have, now what happens is, like, if we find something is not working properly, so we will ask the spec architects who have done this, so we will get more explanation from this, what exactly is meant by these procedures. So a sharing of these data and all those performance results and all all those things with the, at least between the OTICs and the vendors, would really help to bring up this ecosystem more, and also creates a value for all these certificates. Yeah, so that our intention is so that all these certificates really provide a value to the operators, where at a future where once the RUs or once the components are tested in our lab, it's almost, they don't have to do the duplication of test cases in their own lab. So it's almost partially at least ready for the deployment. So that's what we have. So the data sharing is important, really. Yeah.
Okay.
So data is the lifeblood of being able to test, because the more we talked about the onion of different, are the specifications being met? Does it work as a system at the other end of the extreme? To create real life scenarios in the lab is tremendously valuable, and we have solutions which can go and collect data from the live networks and bring that into the lab. To bring that into the lab is very valuable, because you're making something which is ever closer, making the real environments. However, it does contain things like personally identifiable information, commercially sensitive information. So that's a barrier to sharing, and I don't know how we're going to overcome that. I mean, there are some ways that we can look at the things like secure enclaves, which allows sensitive data to be brought together. I think there'll be perhaps a move towards some neutral host for data, which is sensitive but allows solutions to be brought together. How that evolves, I don't know, but I'm interested to see, because I think it's important to be able to base tests on representative mimics of the live environments.
Yeah, I agree. So data sharing is very important, but at the same time, due to data sensitivity, not everyone is super comfortable in doing that. So.
Not yet.
Yeah, let's hope for that in future. Some way to conceal few things and then share other data. So we are already over the time. We do have more challenges, but I would not like to keep everyone waiting from their lunch. And that would be all. Talk to you guys later, and thank you for listening to our panel.